everyone agreed that that was the case. A default would be a disaster for the American people. It would trigger a job-killing recession. Default would crash the stock market and hurt the retirement security for millions of older Americans. And a default would dramatically increase costs on people all across the country. And it was a very positive development that everyone agrees.
Today was another day of debt ceiling brinksmanship as Republicans continue to hold the economy hostage in return for spending cuts that would slash government services. While congressional leaders sounded optimistic about reaching a deal, the clock is ticking. June 1st is the deadline, which is fast approaching. If no agreement is reached before then, the U.S. would then run the risk of defaulting on its debt for the first time in history. Senator Elizabeth Warren is a Democrat of Massachusetts. She's chair of the Banking Subcommittee on Economic Policy, a member of the Finance Committee, and she joins me now. Senator, maybe first I'll start with just your understanding of where things stand right now in this back and forth.
Well, that we've got a hostage taker who is saying that he is willing to blow up the economy and put millions of people out of work if he, Kevin McCarthy, and the House Republicans don't get to make a lot of very painful cuts in the budget. And he claims to be fiscally responsible, care about the increasing national debt. And yet, every time the president and other Democrats like me talk about bringing in more revenue as a way to reduce the national debt, he says no. Can't possibly do that. So while this fight plays out in this moment of we've got someone that's willing to take a hostage, that's willing to do a lot of damage to our economy, that's willing to destroy our good name around the world, that they claim that it's for fiscal responsibility, but this is really just a fight about our values. And Kevin McCarthy has made clear that we must at all costs protect every billionaire corporation, every loophole in the tax code. And if that drives the national debt up, okay by him, while Democrats are saying, we've already incurred this debt. Let's raise the debt ceiling and go on and have ordinary budget negotiations. Right. So really from very different angles on this. Yeah,
there was some reporting that the White House team had a list of loopholes to close as revenue waivers.
A dozen.
Those were rejected out of hand. There's also this, I think, an interesting thing. I'm going to play you some of your colleague John Fetterman said. One of the red lines as enunciated by McCarthy is work requirements for a few different government programs, including possibly Medicaid, it's unclear, TANF, food stamps, SNAP, right? So these are three government programs. Now, from a budgetary standpoint, this would not save a lot of money. So that even if you're talking about this is an ideological pursuit. Here's what your colleague John Fetterman had to say about SNAP, food supplemental nutritional assistance program, and work requirements. Take a listen.
The Republicans want to give a work requirement for SNAP. You know, for a hungry family has to have this kind of penalties or some kinds of working required. Shouldn't you have a working requirement after we sell your bank with billions of your bank?
That's him asking a bailed-out
John Fetterman.
bank CEO about work requirements for bailed-out banks. My suspicion, though, is that you would have the same view of anything like work requirements around Medicaid or SNAP, particularly.
Well, you know, actually, this thing is even worse than it sounds. You realize that more than 90% of the people who currently receive help through Medicaid either have a job, or they have a disability, or they have a little tiny baby at home that they're trying to take care of. In other words, they're already slotted in the current system as either working or not eligible to work. So you have to ask yourself, what are the work requirements really about? And I want to be clear, they are not about more people going to work. What they're about is loading a whole lot more red tape into the system so that many of the folks will get themselves tangled up and then lose access to benefits they are fully eligible for under the rules, but they get tossed out. That could be a twofer for the Republicans. It could save them a little money when they knock people out, and it could cause a lot of pain to a lot of people who are doing their best to try to hold it together for themselves and their families, because that's who the Republicans are.
Well, speaking of someone who's not in a lot of pain, though has caused a significant amount of it, you had the Silicon Valley Bank CEO, Gregory Becker, in front of your committee today. I've been sort of astonished by the interviews he's given afterwards. Seems clear that he screwed up. They all screwed up. They made a bunch of bad bets. I mean, again, this happens. I mean, people make bad business decisions. They made bad ones. They didn't think interest rates were going to go up. They had too many insured depositors. They had a bank run. You know, I want to play this exchange about his compensation back and forth today and what he plans to do with the many millions of dollars he got while making these very bad bets. Take a listen.
The collapse of your bank cost the FDIC fund about $20 billion, money that someone is going to have to make up. How much of the $40 million that you earned from loading up SVB Bank with risk are you planning to return to the FDIC?
Senator, I promise to cooperate with the regulators as they do.
Are you planning to return a single nickel to what you cost the fund?
Senator, I know there's going to be a process review of compensation.
I'll take that as a no.
I took that as a no as well. Do you think that money should be clawed back?
You bet I think that money should be clawed back. And here's the good news. I'm not the only one. So we've got a bunch of Democrats and a bunch of Republicans who think that money should be clawed back. We are introducing a clawback bill that will basically say to these corporate executives that when you load a bank up with risk and then give yourself these gargantuan bonuses, stock options, and then the bank blows up, you don't get to keep the money, because the only way we're going to get them off this idea that the cool thing to do in banking is take a lot of risk and pay yourself a lot of money is to say, when you blow up your banks, you're going to lose that money. So I've got a bipartisan bill. We're going to be introducing it in just the next couple of days. We're putting the finishing touches on it. I want to get it through the banking committee. I'm going to ask for a markup on it and take it to the floor of the Senate and get a vote.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the biggest bank failures in American history. I think probably you shouldn't walk away with 40 mil. Just me. Senator Elizabeth Warren, not just me, a lot of other people. Thank you very much.
Thank you.